I love it. I love it. I love it. Look at this. This is the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Hey, I'm not surprised.
Hey, what's poppin', my homies? Hope you're doing well, feeling blessed, having a good day, having a good week. This is a breakdown and predictions video for UFC 302. Dustin Poirier in his final attempt against Islam Makhachev in the main event. What a main event. Now, before we get into breakdown matchups, making predictions, doing what we always do, we look at my bets from the last card. And I said that I'm not going to bet like a degenerate. So I only had 4 bets. And I nearly won all of those bets if it wasn't for Clinton Rodriguez. But the rest, pure money. And I also had a fairly decent bet on Usyk as a slight underdog. Now guys, I've only got 1 bet on this card at the moment, but there's quite a few fighters that I like. There's quite a few matchups that I'm going to enjoy to break down. So let's look at the MoneyCity Champions. And as always, if you see your name on the screen, you already know. Pure money. That's money. Let's do it again. Let's go. Now moving into the first matchup of the card, we've got Lima taking on Mitch Raposo. And guys, in my opinion, quite an easy prediction to make because Lima, the striking, the stand-up, the Muay Thai, the stepping elbows against Severino in his UFC debut. It's all really good stuff from Lima. So if you're Mitch Raposo, you don't want to be on the feet against Lima. You want to get him to the mat. However, if you look at Mitch Raposo against Jake Hadley, Mitch Raposo's octagon control, it wasn't that good, right? I'll give you an example. Nordan Becker versus Clinton Rodriguez just the other day. Nordan Becker walked forward in that fight. In round 2, the calf is getting lit up. Yeah, the lead leg of Nordan Becker is getting torched, but he continues to walk forward. Why? Because he wants a takedown. He doesn't want to allow for Clinton Rodriguez to start to control the octagon, start to push him backwards, right? The wrestler wants your back against the fence. So you don't want to put your back against the fence if you want a takedown, right? So Mitch Raposo doesn't want to be walking backwards, doesn't want to be circling the octagon. Mitch Raposo has to get Lima's back to the fence. Get him to the mat. Because guys, we saw with Lima in his UFC debut, he can be taken to the mat. You know, he was taken to the mat by Severino more than once. Now, some people might argue that and say, well, look, his get-up game was good. Lima's get-up game, it showed to be good. And also his jiu-jitsu. He mentioned that he's going to use his jiu-jitsu against Severino. And he also did. You know, the sweeps are there. But guys, Lima shouldn't have to rely on his get-up game and his jiu-jitsu fight in, fight out, right? So starting to improve his takedown defense would really improve him as a fighter because his striking is already really, really good, right? So if he stays on the feet against Mitch Raposo, he's going to light him up. You know, not having to deal with the takedowns, the get-ups. That would improve him as a fighter. That would make him more dangerous. And also, Mitch Raposo does have better wrestling than Severino. So there's also a chance that if Mitch Raposo does get Lima to the mat, there may not be a case for Lima to easily pop back to the feet against an improved wrestler, a better wrestler. So ultimately, this one's going to be wrestling versus Muay Thai. And give me the Muay Thai all day. Look at the stepping elbows from Lima in his UFC debut. How do you pick against that? No can do. Give me Lima. Now moving into the next matchup, we've got Joselyne Edwards taking on Ailin Perez. And guys, in my opinion, quite an easy prediction to make. Because Joselyne Edwards, her takedown defense, her wrestling defense is really bad. Like really, really bad. And Ailin Perez, she is an Argentine twerker. You know, she's good at that. But she's also good at getting the opponent to the mat. She's also good at imposing her physicality on the opponent. And Joselyne Edwards, like I said, her takedown defense, it's never been good. Her get-up game, it's never been good. There's been many times where she'll spend minutes and even rounds on her back. Guys, in my opinion, Joselyne Edwards, she's a fish out of water on the mat. And Ailin Perez, like I said, she's got the physicality. She's got the option to get Joselyne Edwards to the mat. So if Joselyne wants to win the matchup, if she wants to win the fight, she's got to show improved takedown defense. If she doesn't show that, then she's got to show an improved get-up game. You know, work back to the feet, get back to the feet. If she can't do that, then she's got to look for a Hail Mary sub, which, you know, in my opinion, that's not going to happen. How many submission wins does Joselyne have? Let me check. She's got 3 submission wins, so that's okay, but none in the UFC. None in the UFC. Her grappling, her wrestling in the UFC, it's been really dusty. And Ailin Perez, like I said, physical, gets the opponent to the mat. She's not like a world-class wrestler. She's not like Khabib Nurmagomedov. She's not like Du Bronx. But she does focus on her strength. And her strength in this case is the opponent's weakness. So when you put those two things together, you're kind of seeing a straightforward fight for Ailin Perez, you know, being able to get Joselyne to the mat. Now, guys, if the matchup was to stay on the feet, then you're looking at Ailin Perez potentially losing the fight because Joselyne Edwards, her jab is okay, her body kick is okay, what she's doing on the feet is okay, but it's just, can she stay on the feet? That's the question. Now, if you're somebody that likes to answer questions and base your decisions around history, if you're somebody that likes to look at the fighters' performances and then base your decisions around that, then the answer's no. The answer's Joselyne's not going to defend the takedown. She's not going to be able to work her way back to the feet. That's the answer. Now, if Joselyne goes in there this weekend and shows us, look, my takedown defense, it has improved. My get-up game, it has improved. If she does that, then we give her credit, right? Because every mixed martial artist is looking to become more well-rounded. Every mixed martial artist is looking to improve their weaknesses. And that's something that Joselyne has to do. Because Ailin's going to test her where she's weak. She's going to test her there again, right? She's going to be asked the question, can you stay on the feet? Can you get back to the feet? And guys, I'd have to say that based on what we've previously seen with Joselyne, the answer's no. She doesn't get back to the feet. She doesn't defend takedowns. And because of that, give me the Argentine twerker to win the matchup and then to twerk in front of all of us. Which, you know, it's almost become a ritual for Ailin Perez to do that. You know, to win the matchup, then to twerk in front of everyone. I think the UFC enjoy it. I think most people do too. So let's go. Give me Ailin Perez. Now, guys, moving into the next matchup, and quite an interesting matchup here. We've got Gall making his return against Bassil Hafez. And Hafez had a very short notice UFC debut against Jack Della Maddalena, JDM. And in all fairness, that fight was really, really close. Like, really close. Hafez debuted on short notice, right? And he done that well against JDM, which was kind of surprising, really surprising. I kind of expected JDM to go in there and fold Hafez like a deck chair. That's what I expected, but that's not what happened. Hafez was able to get takedowns. He was able to make the fight extremely close and was very close to winning. Arguably did win the fight in some people's opinions, right? And that's why it's a split decision. Now, guys, if Bassil Hafez is doing that on short notice, he's got a real opportunity to go in there and really dust somebody like Gall. And Gall's jiu-jitsu, it's extremely good. It's really good. But in all fairness, that's the only thing about Gall that's really impressive. I know he's improved his striking a little bit, but not really enough to cause major problems for Bassil Hafez. You know, if JDM couldn't stop Hafez, then Gall probably doesn't cause many problems on the feet. The main problem that Hafez is going to face is the jiu-jitsu. But Hafez doesn't have to get this fight to the mat if he doesn't want to. He can use his wrestling. His wrestling is better than Gall's. And maybe he chooses to do that later in the fight or midway into the fight. But starting out on the feet, you know, the opening exchanges, Gall's really inactive. Hasn't fought for a long time. So I kind of see Hafez winning this fight. And guys, what's interesting with this matchup, in my opinion, is we get to see, is Hafez really legit? Or was that UFC debut kind of fluky? You know, short notice, JDM didn't prepare for a wrestler. Was it a fluke? Or is Hafez the real deal? And by the real deal, I mean, you know, just someone who's worth having in the UFC. Maybe not a champion. Hafez probably isn't going to be a champion. But what we get to see is, you know, he's got a lot of heart. He's got a lot of determination. He nearly beat JDM. JDM's going to fight for a title one day or get very close to doing so. So that's what we get to see. Is Hafez worth having in the UFC? Because Gall, in my opinion, isn't. Gall's never been great. He's always been a jiu-jitsu player. His striking defense isn't good. His wrestling isn't good. His striking offense isn't really powerful. So yeah, give me Bassil or Bassil Hafez. Now, moving into the next matchup, we've got Niko Price taking on Alex Morono, and this one's a rematch This is a rematch. If you're somebody that likes to bet on the rematches based on what happened in the first matchup, then you're going to bet on Niko Price, because Niko Price folded Alex Morono in that matchup. He dusted him. Complete dusteration, right? However, Alex Morono has improved a lot since that fight, and Niko Price has regressed a lot since that fight. Niko Price is so entertaining to watch, like one of the best fighters to watch on the roster, and that's because his style is so entertaining, you know, so aggressive. He wants to engage with the opponent, he wants to fight the opponent, he wants to show the opponent, look, we're gonna fight, this is like a bar fight, you know, he wants to show the opponent, look, you're gonna land your best punches, I'm gonna land my best punches, one of us is gonna fall. And obviously Robbie Lawler was able to dust Niko Price. Robbie Lawler's always been trying to send your skull to Rowe. He's always been trying to do that. If you look at Alex Morono against Court McGee in his last matchup, Alex Morono kind of looks like he's sparring against Court McGee. And Court McGee isn't that violent. He's very hittable, very old, slow, dusty footwork. So guys, as you could imagine, if Alex Morono was to give Niko Price the matchup he wanted, and that's more of a bar fight, then the matchup could go how it previously did. But guys, winning a fight in the UFC, winning a mixed martial arts fight, you don't always have to win the fight by stoppage. That's not the only win condition. You know, you can win the fight by asking your opponent, look, we're going to have more of a chess-like fight. I'm not a one-hitter quitter. You're more of a one-hitter quitter. You want a bar fight. But this isn't a bar fight. This is a high-level mixed martial arts fight. And I'm going to move my feet. I'm going to ask you to find my target. I'm going to show defense. I may choose to wrestle, right? You don't have to always win by stopping the opponent. That's Niko's mentality. That's not Alex Morono's mentality. You know what I'm saying? Alex doesn't have to go in there to stop the opponent. Niko Price goes in there to stop the opponent. And that's kind of why we love Niko Price. It makes him so entertaining. You know, he donates blood to the canvas. He makes fights fun, entertaining, chaotic, aggressive, violent. But like I said, that's not the only win condition. Alex Morono has improved a lot. Niko Price, since their first fight, has regressed. You know, his kneecap, he's had knee surgeries. His footwork just isn't as good. He's so hittable. But like I said, Alex Morono doesn't have to engage in that bar fight. He can simply ask Niko Price, look, you want that type of fight? I don't. Let's see who can impose their will, who can impose their game plan in this rematch. Based on the fact Niko Price has regressed, and based on the fact Alex Morono has gotten better, give me Alex Morono to win the rematch. I just think he's going to be too smart for Niko Price. Now guys, moving into a matchup here that's quite interesting is Jake Matthews taking on Phil Rowe. And this one's interesting because really, Jake Matthews should win the fight. He's got so much more experience. He's a black belt. He's fought against, you know, much better competition. He's also a good boxer. At times he gets his chin checked and he falls to the mat. But, you know, overall, Jake Matthews really should win the matchup. His cardio's better than Phil Rowe's too. And that's the main problem I've got with Phil Rowe. His cardio's kind of dusty. And he stands really heavy on his feet. You know, guys, when you go into a mixed martial arts gym, if you go do like mixed martial arts training, you're going to be told by the striking coaches, you don't want your feet planted unless you're planting to throw. Unless you're ready to sit down on your punches, right? You shouldn't really be planted like a stone. Like Roman Delizzi would be a good example. That guy's a clunky statue. You know, he's planted at all times. And that makes you kind of easy to kick. You know, easy to find the mark. Because you're a statue. You're not moving too much. And that's kind of why I think, you know, Jake Matthews should be in control of this matchup. Get your boxing going. Get the lead kick going. Even though he's not like an expert kicker, look to exploit the weaknesses of your opponent, because that's ultimately what you should be doing. If you're not fighting to your strength, then you're exploiting the weaknesses of your opponent. And in best case scenario, your strength is their weakness. But like I said with Phil Rowe, his cardio's a bit dusty. You know, you see that against Neil Magny. You see that against Niko Price. Niko Price nearly stopped him. If Niko Price striking defense wasn't so bad, if his footwork wasn't so bad, he could have won that fight. But Phil Rowe was able to find the mark with his long 1-2 boxing combination. And Phil Rowe, you know, he is kind of dangerous. He is a little bit dangerous. But as the fight progresses, that's where you kind of see Phil Rowe turn to dust a little bit. And I think the experience of Jake Matthews, it should be enough against Phil Rowe. I'm not overly confident in Jake Matthews because, like I said, there's times where his chin gets checked. So if Phil Rowe can check his chin early, then maybe he stops Jake Matthews. But as the fight progresses, Jake Matthews can, choose to wrestle, show your jiu-jitsu. The experience of Jake Matthews, that's what I like most in this matchup. So give me the Celtic Kid, Jake Matthews. Now moving into a matchup between Grant Dawson taking on Solecki. Now guys, I think most people that watch UFC on a weekly basis, you watch every single UFC card. You're a UFC hardcore, right? I think most of those people are extremely confident with this matchup in predicting it, right? And that's because you've got one fighter that's really good at one thing and the rest not so much. And the other fighter who's also good at one thing, really good at one thing, and the rest okay. Not the best, but it's okay. So what you've got here is Solecki, who's really, really good at jiu-jitsu, but the rest not so good. Where's the boxing? The boxing of Solecki, never been dangerous. Where's the Muay Thai? Where's the knees, the elbows, the kicks from Solecki? Again, never been too good. Where's the wrestling of Solecki? Again, not the best. He can get the back. He can get you to the mat. And also the cardio of Solecki. It's always been kind of dusty. So guys, ultimately with Solecki, what you've got is a guy that's very, very good at jiu-jitsu, but the rest is just not there. He's not well-rounded. He's more of a specialist. He's really good at one thing. The rest, non-existent. Now with Grant Dawson, this guy's wrestling is very good. He's a mauler. He'll get you to the mat. He'll get that body triangle. He'll sit on the back, right? Grant Dawson's wrestling is extremely good. However, his striking defense, as you see against Bobby Green in the main event, he didn't really get to show anything in that main event. Kind of sucks for Grant Dawson because Grant Dawson, that was the biggest fight of his UFC career. And he just goes in there and it's like, why did I show up? Nothing happened. The fight started, the fight's done. There's no performance from Grant Dawson. So that kind of sucked. But yeah, against Solecki, he's not really in there with a boxer like Bobby Green. Solecki's not going to find the mark like that. He's not going to find the kicks. He's not going to be able to wrestle with Grant Dawson. The only way that Grant Dawson should lose to Solecki is the submission defense of Grant Dawson doesn't hold up. It fails. Solecki attempts a triangle. He gets it. Solecki attempts a rear naked choke. He gets it. But the likelihood of that happening, considering Grant Dawson's biggest strength is also the grappling, the likelihood, not so much, in my opinion. So give me Grant Dawson to dust Solecki. Now guys, moving into a very, very interesting matchup. We've got Roman Kopylov taking on Cesar Almeida. And this one's interesting. So Roman Kopylov, his biggest weakness is the grappling. It's the takedowns. Take him to the mat. His grappling, his ground game is just dusty. And that's kind of weird because apparently he's a combat sambo champion. I may have got that wrong. But thinking back to prior research, I'm sure he's a combat sambo world champion. I might be wrong. If someone knows, let me know. But guys, based on what we've seen with the grappling with Roman Kopylov, you would never guess that he's a combat sambo world champion. Like, really? That's a combat sambo world champion. His ground game is terrible. However, Cesar Almeida, this guy's not a grappler. He's not a wrestler. He's just like Roman Kopylov. He wants to fight on the feet. And Cesar Almeida has beat Alex Pereira, but that was a long time ago, and it wasn't in mixed martial arts. However, if you beat Alex Pereira, then you're looking at someone that can stand, can hold themselves on the feet, knows what they're doing on the feet, right? That's just a fact. You don't beat Alex Pereira in a striking matchup unless you know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So this matchup on the feet, Roman Kopylov and Cesar Almeida on the feet, this matchup, yeah, it's a good matchup. So guys, I'm pretty confident in saying that Roman Kopylov's grappling, his ground game isn't going to be exploited like it was against Anthony Hernandez, like it was against Duraev, like it was against Carl Roberson. It's not going to be exploited here. If anything, Roman Kopylov may actually have the grappling advantage against Cesar Almeida. But the matchup should stay on the feet. I mean, unless Roman Kopylov really wants to prove a point, unless he wants to show people, look, I know my grappling's been exploited, but I can grapple. I've been in mixed martial arts for a while. I'm going to grapple this guy. That's maybe the game plan of Roman Kopylov. And if that's not the game plan and the matchup stays on the feet, we've been seeing Roman Kopylov been doing some nice work on the feet. You know, the head kicks, the straight punches from A to B. He doesn't loop them. He doesn't go with the hooks. He can rip the hooks to the body. And those are nasty body shots. But I just think, you know, at pick-em odds, I see a bit more of a lean here to the Russian Roman Kopylov. So my prediction is going to be Roman Kopylov to win the matchup. Now, guys, on my last breakdown, I mentioned I'm not going to gamble like a degenerate. Now, on my last card, I made 4 bets and nearly won them all. If it wasn't for Clinton Rodriguez, right? Now, with this one, I may bet on Kopylov, I may not. Now, I mentioned that last week with Angela Hill. You know, I mentioned I kind of like Angie for a bet, but haven't pulled the trigger yet. I might do, I might not. Ultimately, I didn't, right? Because I went with Usyk. I put 500 on Usyk, and that's kind of funny because I mentioned I'm not gonna be a degenerate gambling, but I just like Usyk to win that fight, that battle. I say fight. Boxing's not fighting. Boxing's boxing. We're just throwing punches. But yeah, guys, with this one, I like Roman Kopylov. Roman Kopylov is the pick, and I might bet it. Now guys, for a few weeks, there's been no smoke breaks, but every single week, someone asks me, where's the smoke break? So I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to bring it back on this card for Dustin Poirier's final attempt. It seems right. You know, that's the right thing to do. However, before we get into the smoke break, if you waited to smoke with me, amen. If you've been smoking this whole time, double amen. If you're not a smoker but you enjoy the smoke breaks, that's always been a triple amen, gang. Let's go. There's a bunch of people that just prefer me to break down fights, faded. And I do have more experience breaking down matchups, faded, stoned, than I do sober. So yeah, it's cool. Either way. Now guys, is Dustin Poirier gonna do it? Is he gonna do it? Is he gonna shock the world? Is he gonna win the title on his final attempt? Guys, let me know. Let me know in the comments. Is he gonna do it? And there's gonna be a bunch of people that, you know, even if he doesn't win, people are willing to ride with Dustin Poirier, especially at that price, especially on his final attempt. Dustin Poirier, look at his resume. This guy deserves to be a champion. You know, it might be fate. It might be destiny. Guys, let me know what you think. Is Dustin Poirier going to do it? And obviously, I don't want to speak too much about the fight because we're going to break it down, but I've got a feeling there's going to be some people in the comments willing to make that the dog pick. You know, Dustin Poirier as a dog. Guys, in his final attempt, I cannot wait. Alright guys, let's break down the main card. Let's go. Now guys, moving into a matchup between Randy Brown taking on Elizeu Zaleski. And this matchup, it kind of gives me the same vibes as Jake Matthews and Phil Rowe. And what I mean by that is, I kind of expect Randy Brown to be the winner of this matchup. And the reasons as to why that is, we'll get into. And the same with Zaleski. There's reasons why I think he should lose the matchup, similar to Phil Rowe. But just like Phil Rowe, he's also dangerous. There's also things that Zaleski could do to Randy Brown to win the matchup. So it's kind of the same vibe as that fight. Now guys, Randy Brown's always going to have the physical advantage. He's always going to be taller and longer than the opponent. His boxing is very good, right? So if Randy Brown can use that teep kick, use his counter boxing, stick the jab in your face, stick the 1-2, then he's going to look very good. But what the opponent has to do to exploit the weaknesses, start to break down Randy Brown, what the opponent's got to do is target the legs, you know, kick the legs of Randy Brown. Because what happens when the boxer starts to get his legs kicked? You start to take away his base. You start to compromise the footwork. You start to make the boxer think, look, this isn't going too well. I'm starting to lose my footing. I can't plant my feet. The calf muscle is swollen. I can't feel my ankle. I can't feel my foot, right? You start to really target the leg of the boxer. And guys, Elizeu Zaleski is a capoeira fighter. And capoeira is, it's a crazy style. It's a crazy strike and art. Put it this way, whoever discovered or created capoeira was probably on mushrooms. Probably. Because capoeira is like a lot of spinning shit, right? It's a lot of crazy stuff. But I think against someone like Randy Brown, just be more traditional. You ain't got to spin. You know, just target that lead leg. Just kick that lead leg. I think Muay Thai would be better against Randy Brown than capoeira. But still, capoeira is going to cause some problems for Randy Brown because if you spin and find his chin, Then you can send him to Shadow City. Then you can send him to Ben Askren. And now let's speak about more weaknesses that you could potentially exploit in the game of Randy Brown. There's also a chance that Elizeu Zaleski implements his jiu-jitsu, implements his grappling, gets Randy Brown to the mat, looks for his back, looks for a neck, an arm, looks to exploit the grappling of Randy Brown. Because guys, being really tall, it's really hard to stay on your feet. When you're that tall, it's really difficult to have really good defensive wrestling. So Zaleski's got to find the lead leg of Randy Brown or get him to the mat, you know, implement your jiu-jitsu. If you're Randy Brown, you just kind of stay composed. You know, keep Zaleski at the end of your 1-2. Keep Zaleski at the end of your jab. And kind of make Zaleski try to find the lead leg. But check some. You know, check those kicks. And like I said, Zaleski's more capoeira. So finding that lead leg may not be as simple as what a Muay Thai player would do. And guys, as I mentioned with capoeira, it's crazy. It's a crazy style. And those styles require a lot of energy. And obviously as Zaleski's getting older, that style becomes even more difficult. It's already difficult, but as you get older, even more difficult. So if Zaleski starts to slow down, that's where the boxing of Randy Brown really starts to land, really starts to find the mark. And as I'm speaking about this matchup, I kind of feel like the ingredients of this matchup promote a stoppage more than not. Because if you're Zaleski, you can spin, find his chin, you know, do some crazy kicks. You can also target the lead leg, which is what you should do, which is going to compromise the movement, or you can get him to the mat. So there's multiple ways you could stop Randy Brown. If you're Randy Brown and Zaleski starts to slow down, you start to really find the mark. You start to really sit down on your punches. You know, the long 1-2, it might send his chin to Rowe. Guys, like I said, same type of vibes with Jake Matthews and Phil Rowe. I think the winner should be Randy Brown. I'm not overly confident because there's things that Zaleski could do. But give me Rude Boy. Give me Randy Brown. Now moving into a matchup between Jailton Almeida taking on Alexandr Romanov. And guys, this will be my first underdog prediction on this card. And the reasons as to why that is, let's get into it, right? Jailton Almeida, this guy's jiu-jitsu is extremely good. But he doesn't really want to fight on the feet. He doesn't really want to cause much damage on the mat. It's almost like he has a say no to violence policy. So what I'm seeing with Jailton Almeida is a guy that's really good with his jiu-jitsu. Is his wrestling really good? I wouldn't say his wrestling's great, but he can get you to the mat, which is what he's done most of the time, right? But once he gets you on the mat, yes, he's looking for submissions. And like I said, he's really dangerous. He may get the submission. He would have submitted Derek Lewis if Derek Lewis had a neck, but he doesn't have a neck. So what Jailton Almeida should have done against Derek Lewis is now look for ground and pound. Right, you can't find a submission, but you have dominant positions on the mat. Now you're looking for ground and pound. Now Jailton Almeida lost to Curtis Blades. And the reason as to why that was, he couldn't get the first round submission, right? And as the fight progresses, what we see is Jailton Almeida stick to his game plan, which is to get Curtis Blades to the mat. But Curtis Blades defends a takedown with an elbow, or was it a hammer fist? Either way, one hammer fist or one elbow literally crumbled Jailton Almeida. He turned to pure dust. Now guys, Alexandr Romanov, this guy's King Kong. We was calling this guy the King Kong Smasher. You know, once he lands those punches on the mat, it's like King Kong. This guy's aggressive. So as you can imagine, if Romanov ends up on top, he might just break Jailton Almeida's skull. And as we've seen with Jailton Almeida, like I said, he doesn't want to fight on the feet. He doesn't want to cause damage on the mat. So Jailton Almeida doesn't want to get hit. He doesn't want to hit you. He's a jiu-jitsu guy. And I can't really say he's a minus 250 or whatever he is against Alexandr Romanov. I know Romanov at plus 200 or more is way more acceptable. Way more reasonable. And guys, Romanov, his cardio is dusty. But like I said, Jailton Almeida's not doing much on the feet. So guys, if you're Jailton Almeida, you can win the matchup. You've got to get Romanov to the mat. But if you don't take the back of Romanov or Romanov ends up on top, then the fight may be done for Jailton Almeida. You know, one punch to the skull of Jailton on the mat, it's going to send him from black belt to white belt. So guys, what Jailton Almeida needs to do to win the matchup is essentially take the back of Alexandr Romanov, take the back of King Kong. If he gets the back, then he probably wraps him up like a blunt. But if Romanov can defend takedowns or even find his way into top position like half guard or full mount, then it's done. Then it's done. And if the matchup stays on the feet, Romanov is throwing head kicks. His cardio's not great, but Almeida's not going to be doing much on the feet to really cause problems for Alexandr Romanov. So yeah, in my opinion, the plus 200 is way more acceptable, way more reasonable. And because of that, give me Alexandr Romanov as the prediction, and I might bet it. Now, guys, moving into a matchup between Kevin Holland taking on Michael Oleksiejczuk. And if you've been listening to my channel for a while, you know that I've always referred to Kevin Holland as the homie. Kevin Home Alone Holland. He's always been the homie. Now, the reason why Kevin Holland is the way he is, you know, big mouth. He got left at home on Christmas. One Christmas, he was left home alone, right? Kevin Holland always been the homie though. Guys, I remember I messaged Kevin Holland when he fought Alessio Di Chirico. I messaged him on Facebook and I said something like, yo Kev, good luck against Alessio Di Chirico. The Italian's getting dusted. I said something like that. And he messaged me back and he was like, yo, don't refer to my opponent as the Italian. Or something like that. And instantly I was like, you know what? Dana White has not marketed Kevin Holland incorrectly. This guy is the big mouth. But yeah, I like that about Kev. I like that about the homie. You know, talks the talk, walks the walk. Doesn't always win, right? But he'll show up. He'll always show up. And there's a glaring weakness in the game of Kevin Holland. It's always been his takedown defense. It's always been the wrestling defense. He just can't stay on his feet. However, against Michael Oleksiejczuk, against a boxer, he's not really going to be threatened by the wrestling of Oleksiejczuk. And guys, Michael Oleksiejczuk, his striking defense is so bad. Like, his striking defense is really, really bad. You see that against Pereira. You see that against Chidi and Joaquani. And he did win the matchup against Chidi. But still, he got lit up like a Christmas tree. And guys, Michael Oleksiejczuk is a good boxer. His boxing's very decent. He'll walk forward, rip the body shots. But if he can't get into that boxing distance against Kevin Holland, it's probably because Kevin's controlling the distance. And like I said, the biggest weakness of Kevin Holland has always been the takedown defense. It's never really been the stand-up. I did pick against him when he fought Wonderboy, but we know Wonderboy is like one of the best strikers of all time. His karate is just insane. Now, Oleksiejczuk is a boxer. He's not moving like Wonderboy. He's not boxing like JDM. Oleksiejczuk is a tough-nosed guy. He's a tough-nosed Polish guy, but his striking defense is so bad that the homie should win. So guys, give me Kevin Holland to win the matchup, and he may even talk trash to Oleksiejczuk before he finds a stoppage. Or he may just talk trash throughout the whole fight and win the fight. Give me Kevin Holland. Now guys, moving into the co-main event, we've got Paulo Costa taking on Sean Strickland, the former champion. And guys, I was ready to bet Paulo Costa. I was ready to do it. But then I realised, or somebody told me in my Discord, this is a 5-round co-main event. And that's where the bet on Paulo Costa, it died. It faded. And guys, the reason as to why that is, we know that Paulo Costa, as Israel Adesanya once said, he's a balloon animal. Right? Look at his physique. Look at the muscle. The guy's a tank. But guys, the energy depletes pretty quickly. The gas tank fades quickly. So when you see a fighter that's built like an absolute tank, like Paulo Costa, built with all that muscle, built like a bodybuilder, absolute tank, that's all for show. That's all for show. That's not for fighting. You know, that's not going to help you in a fight. And that's why the bet on Paulo Costa died. You know, those extra 10 minutes. I can't bet on Paulo Costa because of that. Now, guys, you shouldn't bet Sean Strickland before the fight. Just because you're seeing what I'm seeing with the extra 10 minutes on Paulo Costa, that doesn't mean you should bet Sean Strickland before the fight. Sean Strickland never does well in round 1. Sean Strickland always does better in the championship rounds. That's his style. So what he's going to do is essentially let Paulo Costa punch himself out. You know, use all your energy early. Then I'm going to start to find the jab as the fight progresses. So guys, if that's the case, then Paulo Costa's going to land big body kicks early in round 1. Potentially big calf kicks, potentially big hooks. He may even drop Sean Strickland to the mat. He may have a 10-8 round 1. And if that's the case, that's not going to be the same situation in round 4. So Paulo Costa's going to start really well in this matchup, which means the price of Sean Strickland is going to drop to plus money or close to plus money, depending on round 1. But what I do know is round 1 for Sean Strickland, it's never great. And I suggested the same advice against Abus Magomedov. You know, wait for Abus to win the opening exchanges, then bet your money on Sean Strickland. And that's exactly what happened. The tactic was spot on, and I believe it's the same thing here against Paulo Costa. So guys, it seems to me that Paulo Costa is going to do his best work in round 1. Sean Strickland is going to do his best work in round 4, round 5. Then it comes down to those 2 rounds, round 2, round 3. Can Sean Strickland take one of those rounds? Because if he takes one of those rounds, he's going to win the co-main event. If Paulo Costa can win round 1 and round 2, potentially have a 10-8, or even make round 3 close, or even a round 4 really close, then he can win the co-main event. But like I said, Paulo Costa's going to do really well at the start of this fight, and then start to show massive signs of fatigue. And that's where the former champion's going to let him know, look, this is a fight now. So that's what Sean Strickland's going to do. He's going to get better as the fight progresses. Now, some people might say, well, where was that against Dricus du Plessis? Where was that? Guys, even Sean Strickland's coach said in the middle of that fight, right, now you've got to start to up the tempo. Now you've got to start to put it on him. Because Sean Strickland's coach could see that he was losing early, or wasn't clearly winning early, right? And that's where he wanted him to start to change the complexion of the main event, of the title fight. But Dricus du Plessis continued to throw big, heavy power shots. And that's something that I don't think Paulo Costa is going to be able to do in round 4 and round 5. Du Plessis did. He did. You know, he was throwing hard early and late. So he deserved to become champion. But I don't think Paulo Costa can do the same thing. And that's why I'm saying the bet on Paulo Costa is kind of risky. If you want to bet on Sean Strickland, let him lose round 1. Then get down an in-play bet. So guys, like I said, if it's a 15-minute fight, I'm betting Paulo Costa. Because it's a 25-minute fight, give me the former champion. Give me Sean Strickland. Main event, we've got Islam Makhachev defending his title against Dustin the Diamond Poirier. And it's Dustin's final attempt at becoming champion. And guys, you know what they say about the third time? You know what I'm saying? Third time lucky. And also, there's a word in the dictionary. Destiny. Now, some people might say that destiny is real. You know, free will doesn't exist. And there's going to be a lot of people that subscribe to the opposite idea. Whether Dustin Poirier is destined to become champion, destined to win, or destined to lose, he's going to show determination. He's going to try to win the fight. You know, if he's the one who controls it, he's going to go out swinging. He's going to look to become champion. It's his final attempt. Now, guys, if Dustin Poirier was to keep this matchup on the feet, then his chances of becoming champion, I wouldn't say they're great, but his chances are okay. You know, his boxing is really, really good. His boxing in the pocket. If you go to the pocket with Dustin Poirier, he's finding those hooks. He's finding the uppercut. Now, guys, Dustin Poirier's footwork towards the end of his UFC career is kind of dusty. Now, guys, let's speak about Dustin Poirier when it comes to the guillotine. Why does he always jump gilly? Now, I'm going to answer that. I'm going to tell you why. Now, like I said, the footwork of Dustin Poirier is dusty. So you can attempt takedowns. You can get to the lead leg. And as you do that, his takedown defense isn't good. You know, his footwork isn't good. He's kind of stuck in the mud a little bit. His boxing is still very good. I'm not saying anything about his boxing. I'm just saying that you can get takedowns on Dustin Poirier. Now, in Dustin's mind, he knows he's going to the mat. But in his mind, he's thinking, well, if you're taking me to the mat, then I'm going to attack the neck. You know, you're getting the takedown, but I'm getting your neck. And that's why Dustin Poirier always attacks the neck when you go for a takedown, because he knows his balance isn't good enough to stay on the feet. So in his mind, he's thinking, well, I'm not going to scramble. I'm not going to wrestle. I'm not going to stay on my feet. What can I do that's the next best option? I'm going to attack your neck. So more than likely, he will do that against Islam Makhachev, but he's only doing it as a counter. And if it fails, which he most likely will, that's where Islam Makhachev starts to go to work. You know, his groundwork, the neck attacks, the head and arm chokes, the ground and pound. Islam Makhachev is an absolute beast on the mat. Now you look at someone like Volkanovski, right? Volkanovski done really well against Islam Makhachev when it comes to wrestling and grappling. But Volkanovski was more in the prime of his career. And also, those short guys, those short little tanks, they're difficult to grapple against. You know, they're just built like that. You know, when Islam Makhachev took the back of Volkanovski, Volkanovski's looking up at the big screen like he's not doing anything. You know, he's punching him, just asking the ref, Get back to the feet. Let's go. He's not doing anything. Whereas if Islam Makhachev takes the back off Dustin Poirier, it's not going to be the same case. Dustin Poirier is going to be fighting for his life if he gets his back taken. And also Arman Tsarukyan done well grappling against Islam Makhachev, which, you know, if Dustin Poirier loses this matchup, the rematch between Islam and Arman, I can't wait because the grappling was so good. But guys, Dustin Poirier, if he wins the matchup, he just catches him. He just finds a shot. He just finds a counter. But like I said, is destiny real? Do you believe that Dustin Poirier is going to get it done on his final attempt? I believe Islam Makhachev is going to stop Dustin Poirier in his final attempt. Give me Islam Makhachev with a ground and pound stoppage or a submission. I don't see this matchup going to round 4. Give me Islam Makhachev. As always, let me know you're taking in the main event, the co-main event, your parlays, your doubles, your money city bets, all that good stuff. And as always, keep your eyes to the sky and never glued to your shoes. Peace.